our clients are saying to us all the time is
Mhm.
how can we try and feel comfortable in such a chaotic environment for 2024 and
Yeah,
beyond
yeah.
in terms of construction.
If you're thinking, I want to maybe build next year, talking 2025, start doing your prep now. I'm seriously, because we're now looking at land and signing up on land in January, February next year. So you're not going to get anywhere near building till then. So if you've got that option and you can, start thinking about the prepping, and we're going to give you some tips and tricks sort of thing, how to gain control in an uncontrollable.
All right.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Land Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde.
And Catherine Smith. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, it's been good. Crazy busy out there. Madness.
I'm very tired.
Yeah. Does anyone know anyone with any land? We really need some land.
That's literally half my battle.
Yeah,
the only issue for 2024, maybe 2025, we don't know yet. Hopefully not. I hope there's some land releases coming up. But
I've heard some of the things with land releases and what you need. I've been hearing that they might have to do a Mad Max Thunderdome and have people sitting in a wall to fight for it because there's little as land. What is it? 600 blocks available and we need 5,000 or something stupid like that?
Yeah, so the article came out the other day and it said there's basically 600 blocks in the whole Perth region up from Yanchep down to Mandurah. There should be about 5,000 like on stock at all times and there's about 600. So, what's that? 17% or something of the usual amount.
Crazy.
So as you can imagine, it is a dog world out there and, the price reflects that every land release, we're going up and up and up. So this was just an exciting topic to talk about, is really trying to gain control of an uncontrollable environment.
Control what you can.
Something our clients are saying to us all the time is how can we try and feel comfortable in such a chaotic environment for 2024 and beyond in terms of construction. So we've pretty much nailed most areas, we think anyway, to make it as smooth as possible and probably stress-free as possible, to be fair.
And this really settles in if you're thinking about, I want to maybe build next year, talking 2025, start doing your prep now. I'm seriously, because land, there's a lot. We're now looking at land and signing up on land in January, February next year. So you're not going to get anywhere near building till then. So if you've got that option and you can, start thinking about the prepping, and we're going to give you some tips and tricks sort of thing of how to gain control in an uncontrollable.
I honestly feel like that could be the podcast title right there.
That's it. Is it? It's fantastic.
All right. So our first advice for our clients is basically, and I will explain the situation behind the scenes, is separating your finance into two loans, so your land and your build contract. Now, in a normal environment, a house and land package is generally done under one loan, but what we're finding now is land have all the power, and having such an extreme swing in which party has the power creates a bit of a volatile situation. So Tony had an experience the other day.
Yeah. It was without naming names, and everyone was aware, we had clients who had signed on the block December 24th last year when we signed everything up.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it was great. And we knew the titles were going to be late. In the normal world, when the titles get delayed, we just get an extension, and then they go PC, which is practical completion. I mean, the surveyors and the land values and get out there and value the land, go, yeah, it's worth that amount. And then that goes back to the finance broker and they can put together the house and land deal for finance. However, that was in process. We were doing that, but they've used clause 5.1 in the contract saying, no, you haven't come back quick enough. We need it now. And we're like, well, give us the end of the week. Nope, cancelled the contract. Nothing we can do. And the clients lost that land, which is, we've been sitting on it for like 6 months, which was a real shitter, if I'm honest with you. I was pretty annoyed at it.
Yeah.
Could possibly be my fault, the broker's fault, but it's, as you know, you've dealt with how many deals have we done? And that's just common practice that we would just put that together and always say, yeah, they'd honour that. That land went back on the line next day for 80 grand more, by the way. So
80
grand, 70, 80 grand more. So just
do
it. I'm not saying that there's tomfoolery around, but I've been in this game long enough to know that That's a lot of bullshit, if I'm honest with you, and I might get in trouble for that, but I don't care because I know exactly what's happening. But they play within the rules, morally, ethically, and I'll put on
Yeah.
the question.
In a normal environment, the land agents work together with the builders to obviously liaise together to make the deal work in a nutshell. But in this environment, the land agents don't mind cancelling contracts because as
Well,
your situation worked, they
on
can end
this,
up getting a lot more for
I'll
that.
be honest. This wasn't the land agent. This is a private seller.
Yeah.
So
Or
it's
the
not,
developer, the land
developer's a
developer.
private developer, so it's not like a big name developer. You wouldn't know them
Mm,
who are selling it through one of the land agents companies.
correct.
So I think, my personal opinion, I won't tell my personal opinion. Read between the lines.
Yeah. So what we're doing now is essentially, let's say if our block is titled in 6 months' time, we're actually just getting formal finance within the clause of the contract, which is usually 60 days or 90
Which
days.
is the best way to do it.
And that way we are abiding by the contract requirements. And that way we can we'll still settle in 6 months once it's titled, because obviously we need that to actually settle. But we're still abiding by the contract clause, which is obviously subject to finance in most situations. And that is a little bit of a double workload for the finance broker. But at the same time, we're still securing that land for that current pricing, which obviously, makes a huge difference. But in the bottom line,
it runs a line with what we'd done a few years ago when we'd put when the builders had the kind of power and land wasn't titled for 12 months, and we'd put in like a delayed title allowance, so we'd put like a couple of grand per month, and you'd end up putting 10 grand in there.
Correct.
And if it didn't need it, great, but if it was there, it was already in the contract, so it didn't hurt the client too much.
Yeah.
And if it was a spare bit, they could use it pre-start. That's kind of happening now, and what we called that was the best situation in the worst example, right? We don't want to be doing that. That's not what you want. You want to put down, that's my price and happy days, but that's not the real world we live in. And same in the land. And I don't like doing what you're saying. It's the best way to do it in this situation. But as you say, the double workaround, you then got to pay for the land, repayments, there's a few things that but we're saying, hey, at least then you've got the land, we'll make it work and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a nightmare,
it's just gaining control of
but it's complete
of
control.
the situation.
You're saying your
with
land, nothing can happen.
Correct, yeah. So our second tip and trick for this podcast is to really, what we're doing as a team is obviously prioritizing sort of what we call those mid-tier builders. So we are generally speaking avoiding those larger, bigger project builders for this year. We don't need to name them. You know who they are. Essentially what's happening is, of course, just due to the sheer volume that people are building at the moment, they just have too much work on. So what happens when they have too much work, they can call the shots. So that's not great for a client, because obviously they're a little bit more restrictive in terms of what happens to toe the line and what have you.
Yeah. With the mid-tier stuff as well, we're not talking about the value or the competency or how good it is. That's absolutely fine, and with no drill. It's just that they're probably builders that don't roll off the tongue. You'd say X, Y, Z, and you're like, I've never heard of them, but we've been in the industry that are fairly, they're a mid-tier, so it's maybe second
sort of
or third.
medium size is probably the way to
not
call
going anywhere, absolutely solid, but just, and then stay in their lane and don't want to be one of the big 2 or 3. That's not where they're trying to be. They're trying to be just in that level.
Yeah, more just, the medium-sized builders that are still open and, wanting business, but obviously wanting to keep their branding very much customer service focused, which is important for the whole experience for the clients.
And that's what it is. And then because you get a better customer experience, I feel, with some of these builders, the mid-tier ones as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot more touch points. You deal with one person. We know the ones that we work with are really good to work with you. We got real direct access to them. It's like a pick up a phone call, they phone you straight back. We get things quickly, which is good in that area. So that's why we kind of pick them, and we know that we can get a bit more, not leeway, but they're open to a bit more, rather than just going, no, we don't do that, we do that. And we're seeing some of those builders going, hey, we're not touching that area anymore. And we'll touch on that, I suppose, a little bit later.
Correct. Okay, second one is a tip and trick for actually getting land. So congrats if you've already got your land, but commiserations if you haven't. But
but on the back of, getting to separate the finance, if it's not something you think you can do or not, getting there's a couple of options. So it goes in kind of let's go 3 levels. Obviously, number 1 level is what everyone wants is cash.
Cash
is king. It's done.
Done.
There's no one cares about it. It's done.
Sold. Discount.
Then there's pre-approval, which means discount. You do. You should be as well. Talk to us. We'll help you. When you're in the pre-approval so your broker will go to the bank and get like a 3-month pre-approval. And then the last one is the LOE, is a letter of eligibility, which is just basically a broker saying, hey, we've done your finance, and at this time they can borrow 600K.
They're eligible to get a loan, essentially.
That's enough, but it's not holding the ground anymore like it used to. So we're trying to stay away from LOEs, right? Pre-approvals are pretty good. They'll get you in there. They're not first off the line, but they'll get you in there and keep you solid. The only negative of that is if the titles are like 6 months away, you'll have to apply for your pre-approval every single time. Now, you can let it lapse up to 6 months, but you have to get it done prior to it. And that might mean they might want your approval, which happened in that client was talking about. They want the approval of finance completion before even titles are done now.
Yeah.
So, but the builders are working on this and they're going, right, we know that's happening. As long as what we do is we communicate with the builders saying, hey, we need to have the contracts and things done. So within that 3-month period, which is easily done, but you just got to be on it. So the idea is if you've got the cash, and no one really has.
No.
It's got the cash.
Essentially, how we're kind of operating is, let's say a client goes, we want Baldivis. We go, great, let's go get a pre-approval before we source the block.
Yeah.
And that gives us the highest chance of actually securing it.
Because the bank have said you've got the money, the land developers are a bit happier. And then it's now what we were talking about at the start of the show was we used to just be able to go, can we get an extension? It was no problem. That's not the case. That's gone. I'm now like, no. If you can't get to practical completion, you're okay for an extension because they can't go behind it. But once practical completion is done and they've got access, you need to go and push your broker or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of putting that as like an extra step in my process. And it goes, right, when is practical completion? Right, we need to get pre-approved. We need to get approved as soon as we can. Because titles, once practical completion does it, that means the roads are in, the lights are in, and all that stuff. And people can access and go, right, that's number 14 Smith Street. Street.
You can see the block, and it's about 90 days into a title from there.
Yeah, and then we should be able to manage that. The thing is, though, if titles aren't 90 days, you're going to have to go and get it redone again. So this is where we were saying have clean accounts for 3 months. It's like something you have to have clean accounts for 9-10 months. But you should have clean accounts anyway. But there's just a few more things that we've experienced now that we've got the experience to help navigate through. Once bitten, twice shy sort of thing.
Yes. Now, this is probably more from a builder's perspective, but definitely minimal changes in terms of designs. What we're finding now is obviously smaller pool of builders that are really into those overly custom homes. And if you are in that desire to do something like this, the price is obviously now at a premium. So builders right now are obviously wanting more the cookie cutter generic floor plans that they have, minimal changes. What I mean by that is a few doors here and there and maybe a rearrangement, things like that. But structurally of the home, they really want to keep it within their perimeter. There are some of the larger project builders that are only doing their floor plans, no changes, just purely because they can only service 70 homes a month, for example, and they're getting 70 of no changes, and that's really where they need to perform in that volume space.
A lot of that's been pushed around because they're busy and they can pick and choose as well, but also to try and help guarantee that 12-month build time, because as much as people say all these builders are slowing things in, they didn't want to do this because it costs them more money. They put their houses prices on, and I think they do it off like a 12-month build now, and it used to be like off like a 7-month build. So every time that month goes over, it actually eats into their profits. It's business, right? That's what has to happen. So they want to be getting paid. They want to get you the keys as quickly as they can, make sure you've got a quality house.
Yeah.
So that's happening there. That's a lot of that. When they've got their own builds, they've done all that. They've done all the feasibilities, how long this will take, all that stuff. So they know how long it would take. Because I know the tradies that were signed up to going, you need to do this in this amount of time. And it's all like a big cog of wheel that works, right? That's why that's there. Because they can control it and make sure that you're still getting like that 12-month build. Plus, and behind the scenes, they can't be arsed building those fancy customize it because it takes so much money. It clogs up the machine and it takes
the
longer. The
tradies prefer the cookie cutter.
Yeah, it's nice and easy.
And so do the drafties and estimatings and obviously engineers and everything.
And if they're getting
else,
200 designs in a month, trying to do the custom ones will take 4 or 5. Now, that's not saying some of them will maybe not do your designs, but if you go and pay a drafty to do your design, they might look at it because it's already drawn up, but you'll have to get it done to like a premium stage, not just like a drawn on a napkin thing. It will need to be proper working drawings or close to it. And that can cost anything from up to like $1,200 to $5,000. But you then own the designs, but that's something to be aware of if you're going to go down that route.
Yeah.
And we can certainly help you with that stuff as well.
All right. So tip number 6. I don't know where we're
2,
at.
3, 4.
We'll go with 6.
We have a little board here, by the way, just so you know. We've got a little board.
6 sounds good. Tip number 6 is choosing a block close to being titled. Now, there are probably touch points on the hassle we're talking about with pre-approval and resubmitting your finance and all the rest of it. When you have a block closer to title, it's basically ready to settle, ready to be built on. So the closer we are to that, the less changes that can happen along the way. So as we're filming this, we're in the end of June 24. We're now getting land releases for June 2025.
Yep.
So if a block's not titled till a year away, there are so many variables that can change from now till then. And I'm talking not just from the builder's perspective, of course, but I'm talking about from the client's perspective in terms of their life. You know, someone could get pregnant, someone could lose their job, someone, you know, could get seriously sick. And, you know, there's so many variables that happen, and you think about your life a year ago and how much has changed. And that's a natural progression of life. So to control your situation, if a block's titled, and I would actually argue within 4 months now is close to titles, that allows, I guess, less variables and less external things that can affect the build.
Absolutely, you know, and that's exactly where we're at. And again, you know, we say cash is king, title blocks are king at the moment. You know, if there's a title block, bang, gone, because then you know what you're paying. You're already there to go jump onto the approval and get it done, and none of those things that we spoke about, that I spoke about, can really impact it, like being behind contracts so they can pull the land from you next minute it's on there for $8,000 more and stuff like that. You know, that stuff would be avoided. Yeah. That's really, like, I suppose that's all is untitled, really, isn't it? It's just if we can get them, get on it and get it secured. Because the closer you are to titled, the closer you are to building a house. And you start that 12-month clock, right?
Yeah.
And
last one.
You've been doing on the list. Go on then.
All right. The last one is particularly, I do not want to stress this enough, particularly with your PBA or PPA, which is basically what you sign at the beginning when you lodge with a builder. Is to avoid a lot of provisional sums. Now, to be fair, most builders will have a provisional sum for site works that is valid and fine, because obviously they need to do the due diligence on that. But there's a lot of provisional sums in the actual quote of the build. Tend to avoid that, because obviously the variable of that will swing rapidly through the next couple of months you're actually in the system.
I mean, I'll give you a great one. Bushfire attack level. We've got a client, and it's just recently, we've just got all sorted. But when he signed on the land and got it, and he used the old BAL report, it was BAL 29. So it's a high BAL report anyway. But we factored it in. Had to get it ran out of date. Had to get a new one. Boom, fire zone. No builders are building a fire zone. We questioned it, queried it. They went out and looked at it, and they've reconned. We think someone just went in and went, "Oh, that's fire zone," and not actually looked at it. This is Baldivis, one of the old estates. So it wasn't legit. But that's something that can happen if we're, with provisional sums. You know, we've seen noise attenuation. That just means if you're close to a road or something that makes a lot of noise, you've got to put
freeway or airport, whatever.
You've got to put extra kind of, let's call it padding, noise proofing and stuff like that in there. And it can vary from like $5,000 to $27,000, right? And yeah, you don't want to be playing with provisional sums like that, because sometimes the builders don't know until they get the actual report back, depending the way the house faces, how many windows you've got, all that jam. So if you can, and I suppose on that, and this might not be the best way to do it and whatever, but I've got some clients that want to try and get all the pre-start stuff into the quote as well and all that kind of things, which is, that's okay, but it takes a lot longer to get your full-time contract, your build contract. What's a full-time contract?
I don't know.
Jobs in my head. I know. But that would be what I would say with that. You know.
Yeah.
Provisional sums are good, but they can be killer. If you use them smartly, you can get away with it.
People can get caught out by this, and what I mean by that is certain large project builders, when they will go, "Oh, we've got a fixed price for the next 6 months or whatever," once you've signed your PPA, on fixed pricing. However, when you actually look at their quote, 30% is provisional sums, which will be about $60,000 of the actual build contract. So they're saying, yeah, sure, this $150,000 is fixed. We're not going to, change that price, but all these 5 itemized, things here are all provisional, and they can obviously float, swings and roundabouts. Yeah. So take the fixed price with a grain of salt when there's a large percentage of provisional sums.
With some of the clients we've got that we're not looking to be, titles till January, February, we're just slowing the design process down a little bit. Mm-hmm. We're just taking our time. There's no point. I don't see a real big point in putting one in now and then sitting on it for like 5-6 months. But because then there's that provisional sum, like title delays and things like that. When we get a little bit closer, we start working on designs now, but the quote I'll probably hold off till we get a bit closer.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to go, it's now went up $14,000. It's just pain in the ass fight, because especially if you're working with a kind of tight budget, which pretty much every single deal is now, is budget's tight. And I thought 700k would be a tight budget, but that's a tight budget now, right? For what you want.
Unfortunately, it is. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, that's how we are controlling an uncontrollable environment.
Yeah.
From the builders, from the lands, from the finance, and kind of a mix of all, to be honest.
And we're going to batten on the back of this with some real experts from the building industry coming in and talk about what they're doing. Builders, finance people, land people, they're going to come in and talk about what they're doing to support, let's basically 2025 and finish off 24, because everyone's feeling the pressure together to try and get it done. The clients are there, the people want to build the houses, we just don't have this. It's the land right now. The land is the thing that's really holding us up.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that. However, we're trying to get our subscription followers up on YouTube, guys. We want to try and hit 500, so we'd love everyone to share this and ask them to subscribe for us, because the more subscribers we get, the more great content we can bring out and help you guys make sure you get the right choice when you're building.
Great.
So subscribe, please.
Subscribe on YouTube, please.
Yes, and it really helps us. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Lawn Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.